coming up on the Outside of Sunday podcast.
My dad, he was one of the founders of the Stokes Valley chapter of the Mongrel Mob. He actually planned my mum's murder as well. And when he got saved, he spear-tackled the guy that he hired to kill my mum and said, "Don't kill her, I love her, and I love Jesus." To be Māori and to be a Christian, you are deemed as a traitor. You're deemed as embracing the colonizer's religion. In this particular account, the mere comes out. He goes to land a killing blow, and my ancestor Ihaka stands between the path of this mere and the man responsible for killing him. Says, "Kawe patuia he karaiti ana aho." Don't kill him, I am a Christian, I have forgiven him. Henry Williams in his diary goes, before any white man was there, the gospel had already gone before us.
Wow.
How is that possible? Māori evangelized Māori.
Hey, you're listening to the Outside of Sunday podcast Thinking Matters series. I'm Krista, and this series comes straight from the Truth Matters conference. Here you'll find fascinating and inspiring conversations with Wesley Huff, Henare Whaanga, Todd Funk, and a lot more. Stick around because truth matters in and outside of Sunday. Hey Outsiders, welcome back to the podcast. It's Krista here, and I'm at the Truth Matters conference run by Thinking Matters, and now I'm here with Henare Whaanga. Welcome, Henare.
Thank you.
So good to have you here. Well, I thought we'll get straight into it. I'd love to hear a little bit about you, the season of life that you're currently in, and what you do at Thinking Matters.
Yeah, sure. So on my dad's side, I come from the east coast of New Zealand, the lands of Rongo Hine, Ngāti Rā Kaipaka, Kahununu, Ngāti Parau, so a real east coastie.
Wow.
And on my mum's side, I come from the ancient lands of Surrey, London. And currently, my family and I, we live down in Wellington.
Nice.
And we're part of a local church that's down there as well.
Awesome.
In terms of Thinking Matters, I serve as the director of Māori Christian Apologetics. So stepping into that world of biculturalism and all the fun local stuff that, we hear a lot about in Wellington. So
True. You're in like the hub of it all.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Well, so I'd love to hear a little bit before we get into some kind of deeper questions is how did you come to saving faith in Jesus Christ? And well, I suppose this is called Truth Matters. So how did you come to find that truth?
Yeah. So I was raised in the church. My parents had the epic transformative story. So my dad, he was one of the founders of the Stokes Valley chapter of the Mongrel Mob. I went to jail, drug dealer, all that fun stuff. My mum, she was a Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
And she left that, became a full-time drug dealer alongside my dad.
Whoa.
And being the youngest of 10 as well, there's a lot of thoughts and, influences around the place. And so I grew up on the latter part of that. So my dad went to jail, had a transformative experience with Jesus. He actually planned my mum's murder as well.
Whoa.
And when he got saved, he spear-tackled the guy that he hired to kill my mum and said, "Don't kill her, I love her, and I love Jesus," etc., etc.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was sort of the starting point and the backdrop to my story. So I grew up with my dad going around preaching and teaching, went to church all the time, went to prayer meetings, youth group. And it was all great. It was all beautiful. But then when I was a teenager, I got hit with those intellectual questions that, like reasonable faith during that time was quite foreign to New Zealand soil. That passage that says that we are to worship God in both spirit and in truth. There was a lot of spirit, no truth.
That's like my favorite Bible verse, by the way, for New Zealand.
Yeah?
I'm like, we need to have that, right?
Yeah, that balance, man, it's so important.
Key.
And so I started to have these questions. I came across a couple of people that really put a stone in my shoe. Sort of like what we've been talking about today about the reliability of the Bible and just those seeds of doubt. And the worst part wasn't so much that, because we're going to come across those things in our walk, right? Regardless of where we come from. But it was my elders and my church's inability to speak into that. And so that sort of just festered into me starting to become disheartened with, the reliability of our faith. Is it just one of the many? And because the men and the women who I thought would have the answers didn't have any answers, I then walked away from the faith. And then, long story short, became a hardcore atheist.
Wow.
Walking away from the faith and having the conclusion that Jesus was just one of the many, and that there's different variations of Christianity and it's not exactly true, meant that I could be the arbiter of truth in my own life. So I could do things my way. I could be God of my own life. And so I walked that scene for a couple of years. And then one day I was trying to practice how to tear someone's faith down. So I YouTubed...
so it's like atheist apologetics.
Yeah, pretty much. And I YouTubed a video of where, atheist destroys Christian. And I found a video and it said atheist destroys Christian. It was clickbait. It wasn't an atheist that destroys Christian. It was a Christian that destroyed an atheist.
Clickbait.
Yeah.
Holy clickbait.
Yeah. And that opened up a video to a guy who said something that still impacts me today. He talked about how, talking about young people, they're talked out of the faith. And he goes, you know why they're talked out of it? Because they were never talked into it. We never told them why Christianity is true. We simply said believe. And when I heard that, I was like, well, that was me. And then he proceeded to give a presentation about not a fuzzy feeling happy, a version of Christianity, but rather one that was objectively true. I'd never heard that before.
Wow.
And it sort of just spun me around a little bit, and I was like, what is this? And it sort of pulled the curtain back to a whole other side of Christianity that I'd never seen before. I've seen all the fluffy, wairua, spiritual sort of stuff, because I came from a Pentecostal background too. So we saw all of that, but the reasonable faith and that there was this whole world called apologetics, it just blew my socks off.
Wow.
And so that started a long journey. So that was back in 2013. And it just started a long journey of rediscovery, really.
Wow.
And finding that regardless of what I think or feel, regardless of what my flesh wants to do, God exists, His word is true. And there's implications to our choices if that is actually the case. And so the reason why I'm a Christian today is not because it feels nice. It's hard being a Christian, especially in the space of being Māori and Christian. There's a lot of pressures there. So the reason that I'm a Christian is because everything points to the fact that Jesus was who He says He was.
That's amazing. Well, I wanted to touch a little bit more about what you just kind of brought up, which is it's not easy to be a Christian in a Māori space. Can you expand a little bit more on that for us?
Yeah. So today, in our country, people have felt it, seen it all the time, social media and on the news. There's immense polarization, and specifically within Māori culture and Christianity, the colonization and all that sort of thing. And so to be Māori and to be a Christian and to be of the Christian persuasion of the missionaries, so the Protestant side of things, you are deemed as a traitor. You're deemed as embracing the colonizer's religion. You're deemed as receiving the white man's faith, and so there's sort of a internal rejection that comes from our own people.
Wow.
And then there's also the other side of it as well, of where there's a lot of churches that, and they either go one or two ways. Either they go headfirst into the Māori stuff, accepting and venerating anything Māori, or they go the other way and they say that's a whole bunch of pagan hoo-ha that we as a church need to just get rid of. And that's sort of what I actually grew up with in part of my upbringing in church. Of where, like for instance, there was this one lady, beautiful kuia, and she got up in open prayer and started to pray into Te Māori. The pastor got up and shut her down and said, "Don't speak that language in here." That was the first time I'd ever seen something that abrupt, and being young, it was like, oh, so Māori is bad. If you want to be Christian, you can't be Māori. And so there's tensions that exist on both sides. So it's a hard place. And I call that space the in-between, right? Because for those of us who are Māori and Christian, we love our whakapapa, we love our tipuna, we love the customs of our people, but at the same time, we love Jesus. And so trying to reconcile those two things is where the fight is at, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, you mentioned colonization. How do you respond to somebody who says that Christianity is just like this tool of colonization? And I know, like, Jesus wasn't a white man, he was a Middle Eastern man. But yet there is this framework that Christianity and colonization, they worked together and they've kind of had a negative impact on this country. What would you say to somebody who has that view?
I would ask, what do you mean by that? That typical, Greg Kokel thing, like, what do you mean?
Yeah, ask the question.
But in genuine, what do you mean by colonization? Making sure that I understand what it is that they're actually talking about. Because quite often, in my mahi, what I've come across is a lot of whānau are just repeating stuff that they've heard on social media or heard from someone else. It sounds flash, but it's not tika. It's not true. It's not accurate. And so quite often, a good chunk of the time is actually dealing with misconceptions. There is genuine colonization that, has happened and is happening. But a lot of the stuff that the missionaries and Christianity gets blamed for just never happened. Probably the biggest thing is how Christianity was forced down our throats.
No.
Not true.
Not true. I mean, I've read stories of the chiefs were begging for missionaries to come. Not all of them, obviously, but there were certain chiefs who went out of their way. They were put into like hardship and like suffering to get on boats to go to England or Australia or wherever to get missionaries to come and help their cause because of what was happening by the actual colonizers. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I've heard some scholars and critical thinkers today say that upwards of 90% of the Māori population by 1850 became Christian, and not just Sunday going, transformative, on fire sort of Christian. And you're right with the there's stories all over the place. In particular, where I'm from, there's a real epic sort of story of where my tipuna, where my last name comes from, he was a paramount chief. And he wasn't supposed to be. His father and his older brothers were all massacred when they were invited to see these new weapons that had just arrived in the country. And when they arrived, expecting to be, hey, welcome to dinner, they found themselves being dinner.
Oh my goodness.
And so Ihaka, who's my tipuna, he was the last survivor of that particular family tree. And he grew up, that young boy became a man, and the man that was held responsible, fast forward a couple of decades, because he ran off to Auckland and came back down to the East Coast in 1834. He arrived, and if you can, I always like to help people picture what this actually would have looked like. I mean, if you've been to a pōwhiri, there's this notorious part that as a kid you always hated. It's called the hongi line, and it's like, especially with the aunties with the big juju lips. Love you, auntie. And this is what happened, is that you have these missionaries that have just arrived for the first time on the East Coast, and then one of my ancestors' warriors looks over and sees the guy that's responsible coming down the hongi line. And then when he gets close enough, this warrior pulls out a patu and goes to land a killing blow as vengeance, which would have been expected. I mean, if someone killed your whole family, whether you're Christian or not, there would be a sense there that the scales are unbalanced.
Justice needs to be
justice, and God is concerned with justice, and that's something else that we could probably talk about too. But in this particular account, the mere comes out, he goes to land a killing blow, and my ancestor Ihaka stands between the path of this mere and the man responsible for killing him. Wow. And for the first time in a public confession of faith says, Kaue patuia he karaiti ana aho. Don't kill him, I am a Christian, I have forgiven him.
Wow.
And part of my faith journey, I was never told that story. My dad didn't know it. My aunties didn't know it. And so I was like, why wasn't this passed on. But it's those stories that need to be echoed, because those are the shoulders that we stand on. Another really good indicator of Christianity coming to the people was that Henry Williams, the guy who translated the Treaty of Waitangi, when he came down to Wellington the year prior, he had to make a massive heke through the centre of the North Island to get back on time for the signing. And he writes in his diary that he went to a place that had no European contact. He starts preaching the gospel, and of course he knows how to speak Māori now, so he's speaking in Māori. And then he stopped halfway through, and one of the people there goes, "Oh, Mr. Missionary, sir, we already know this message. We're already Christian."
Wow.
And then Henry Williams in his diary goes, "Before any white man was there, the gospel had already gone before us."
Wow.
How is that possible? Māori evangelized Māori.
They did.
And there was actually someone who actually hit me up about this, and it's like, how can you say that? And another kaumātua turned around and he goes, the audacity to think that a lone white man with nothing but a book could come to a land of warriors and force us to forsake things for his God? Preposterous. Like that, no, like you're stamping on the mana of my ancestors. And quite often in these misconceptions that we have to unravel, we deny our tipuna the very thing that we're so passionate about today. Mana motuhake, tino rangatiratanga, autonomy and self-governance. Our ancestors made their own choices. And for the vast majority of them, they chose Christ.
Yeah.
And the question that I want to get to is, why did they do that?
Why did they choose Christ?
Yeah, why did they choose Christ?
Have you heard of the story of Tarore?
Yes,
So
beautiful story.
I just shared that with Wes before you were here, Wes Huff.
Cool.
Because I was like, I want to just leave him with a taste of the rich cultural heritage and the faith heritage of this nation.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about how, these the Māori had to stop Henry Williams because they already knew the gospel when Tarore died, and the two tribes were reconciled through the gospel of Luke that was translated into Te Reo. That gospel was spread, I think it went, you might know the story better than me, all the way down to the South Island, that little book. And that is one of the ways. Do you know if there were any other stories similar to that story of Tarore?
Yeah, so the concept of forgiveness exploded. Not to say that Māori didn't have any understandings of rebalancing the scales. I mean, when we talk about utu, it's not just vengeance, it's again talking about justice, and that the seesaw has been unbalanced and it needs to be rebalanced. The problem is that when we seek to rebalance the scale, quite often we end up putting it the other way. It's not balanced, it's just going backwards and forwards. And with some of these stories, with these iwi, with these hapu, with these awesome stories, is it's a never-ending cycle. Yeah. And what Jesus does when he comes onto the scene is that he forgives. And he commands us to forgive our neighbour, forgive them their trespasses as, we forgive those who trespass against us. And the thing about that, it's not a denial, and this is where some people get tripped up. It's not a denial that things happened. It's not like just build a bridge and get over it. Jesus or God says, vengeance is mine. Justice will be done. And it's again, when we talk about us as Christians, Christ comes first. And so we need to submit. One of my tipuna, he wrote a letter where he survived through the land wars, he survived through the betrayals, he survived. In this letter, he calls sales by stealth, which was all this land that was done illegally. And at the very end of that letter, the spirit is kia hauhia tātou I raro e te mana o ihua. Let us, and that us there, tātou, is a inclusive us. It's not just a us over here and not you. It's a everyone. Let us be reconciled under the mana of God.
Wow.
And the beautiful thing about it is that he uses the personal name of God, meaning that it's not just a God that you can make in your own image. He's talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so, there's heaps of stories out there. Tarore is probably one of the most famous ones because of how gruesome. And quite often I think that's where the grace and the power of God actually shines, is on that dark, ugly, bloody backdrop.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't understand what suffering is, but when you understand that and the message of Christ comes through, it makes all the more sense. Like that light shining in a dark place.
Yeah. What do you think it is that has made such a big change from the Māori people embracing Christianity to, being the vast majority of Christians in this nation, to now this whole sense of, like what you were describing earlier, of that's against us, that's not for us, that's part of colonialism? What do you think it was that has contributed to this massive shift for the Māori people?
It's a good question. There's probably a few reasons why. You probably can't put it down to one.
Here's what's coming up in part 2.
You'll hear a kōrero that sounds like a lot like Assassin's Creed from Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And it's the creed goes, nothing is true, everything is permitted. So you have this kōrero that says there is no right, there is no wrong, there is no good, there is no bad. And then the next phrase that's right out of the facilitator's mouth is that those white thieving colonizers, evil, did this, rah. And it's like, well, if your previous kōrero is true, is that true? Yeah. Nothing is right, nothing's wrong. If everything's permitted, then what those colonizers did was okay, according to your kōrero.
Hey, thanks again for listening to this episode of the Outside of Sunday podcast. If something made you laugh or cry or think a little deeper, please give this episode a like and leave us a comment. Your feedback blesses us, and we want to bless you right back. So every comment automatically goes in the draw for our monthly giveaway. Who knows, I might even read your comment out in a future episode. And hey, sharing is caring, so don't forget to let somebody you know about this podcast. Outside of Sunday is part of the Outsider Network and is made with the help of Inspirational Media.